You there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you
Just
see
my
me?
light. I can see you.
You can. I can't see you though. You got this little bit. Oh, I did see you. You're gone. I have a picture of Nicholas. Looks like Alexander, it's a young boy.
Yes. Yeah, Nicholas is on there, and so is Gary Mahler.
Okay. Gary Mull. I don't see him. I see his name.
Yeah, Gary's not.
Hi,
Gary's
guys.
not on video. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
Oh.
Good. How are
Did
Hey,
you get
Nick.
the packet? Did you get the packet, Melanie?
I'm not answering.
Melanie, you need to put the light in front of you.
No.
Have you put the light in front of me?
You have the light coming in behind
No,
you.
it didn't.
There you go.
All right, let's
That's much better.
pick table. All right, hang on.
Prices would improve in 2020. Now, amid a public health crisis, their hopes are being significantly forced to sell.
I hope I have enough vodka there. Wait. Well, I have in the middle of my screen something that says Gary's Mahler.
Yeah, that's Gary. He's here.
Well, it's right. He's taking up my whole screen.
So if you'll go up to put your cursor up in the upper right-hand corner,
Yeah.
and you can adjust the speaker view. So just click on that, and it'll either show you a gallery view,
Just the speaker view.
or you can go to speaker view.
Oh, gallery view. Okay.
And you may have it on full screen as well. What I would suggest is if you put it over, if you click on Manage Participants down on the bottom toolbar, you can also see who all's involved in the meeting. And there'll be an opportunity for people to click the buttons down at the bottom to indicate when they would like to speak.
So we'll be providing that data very shortly.
All right. There are two of us here. Is Nicholas just a Nicholas, are you just a spectator?
I don't really want to look. I mean, many times.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We want to find vaccines.
I have the spectators. Nicholas Alexander, Gary Mahler.
Right back, guys.
Gary's hidden.
Everybody else, so we want to find a reason to. Dr. Fauci.
Anthony, did you get my email?
I did.
Okay. We can talk later. Probably got a button my shirt. Nobody's gone.
So if I may, let me do just a very short primer for anyone who's not familiar with Zoom. And first of all, and I don't think that's the case here with anyone, but if you have two devices at the same time tuned to the same meeting, like if you have an iPhone and a laptop, it will create a lot of reverb. So I don't think anyone's doing that. So, but please don't do that. As I mentioned before, at either the bottom or the top, if you'll put your cursor down there, you'll see a screen that says manage, or a button that says manage participants. And if you'll click on that, you'll see a list of who all's participating in the meeting right now. And just to maintain some sense of order and decorum, if you'll click on the yes button, it will put a little green check mark next to your name, and I'll keep an eye out for those, and I will call the chair's attention to that if anyone is who's not on the select board is wanting to speak. Also, if you want to click the chat function, which is just two buttons over from the managed participants, you can see a chat. So if one of our guests wants to send me a message saying, hey, I'd like to speak to this item, then I'll also call the chair's attention to that. As I mentioned, if a lot of people are talking at the same time, it creates a lot of jumbled audio. And so if you're not talking, it's generally best just to keep your microphone muted, and that is in either the upper or lower left-hand corner of your screen. There's a little microphone icon that you just click on, and it'll put a red check through it. And just as a reminder, the meeting is being recorded, so we will be posting this on the town's YouTube channel. And with that, does anyone have any questions before we begin this meeting in earnest? All right, Mr. Chair, it's all yours.
Thank you. Well, welcome. As usual, we usually give a few minutes to somebody has a question to ask. Now's the time to raise it. We won't discuss it in any length, but you'll have a minute or two to talk about it. We will give it consideration, get back to you with it. The other thing is, it's very important with this, especially that we wait to be recognized before we speak. As Anthony said, we get too many people speaking at once, it'll screw everything up. So if you want to speak, please signal. If we have to take a vote on anything, it'll be a roll call vote. I'll call each of the select board members out by name. When I call you out by name, you indicate yes, no, aye, or nay. Yes or no is easier. And we'll go from there. Hopefully everything will work out. Any questions on what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for the select board?
Nope.
Okay. Hearing none. Okay, first, going to the agenda. First item of new business. We have no old
Mr.
business.
Chair, would you like
Yes.
me to open the meeting?
Oh, sorry. You're right.
I'll make
Go
a
ahead.
motion, we open the board meeting.
Second.
Made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. 5 in favor, 4 in favor, 1 absent. All right, going back to the agenda. First item on the agenda is consideration of a temporary policy authorizing the town manager to execute select board approved documents. And this is one I suggested. It's awkward, as we all know right now, but if we have an item on the agenda such as the warrant, if we've all voted in favor, so it's been approved, we give authorization to Anthony to sign for us, so we don't all have to run down there and try to make our way into the cesspool of germs down there. Yes, Ricky.
Why can't we use the electronic signature? We can do that right from our computers, just like we're talking right now.
Well, we can do that. There's a charge for that.
I understand that, but I just think the board ought to be signing those, to be honest with you.
All right, well, again, it was strictly once we've had a chance to vote on it, but how the rest of you feel about it? Which way should we go? Melanie, any comments?
I was kind of fine with having Anthony sign it, but we already approved it, and if we've given him express permission, I don't know how much but I used that when I did my car. So,
Are
I mean,
you,
it's legally binding signature. If we're ultimately responsible, if it's not too much money, maybe we should consider that.
Ernie, are you signaling?
I'm fine either way.
Any comments from the public?
So I will say one thing about DocuSign. It does offer an initial free trial. I don't know how long that lasts. But if you guys wanted to try that, it would be free initially. If we decided that we liked it, it'd be either $120 a year or $15 per month to do that. We could use it with all of our vendor signed contracts. So, but I don't feel strongly about either one of these. I will tell you, I have used DocuSign in the past, and it is very, if any of you have ever used it before, it's very easy peasy.
Okay. Why don't we, if I don't hear any objection, why don't we go ahead and try that, set it up for that trial run, that free trial. We'll see how it goes. Is that agreeable to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Melanie?
So are you making we initiate a free trial of sign and use it to sign select board documents until we can meet again in person.
Yeah, even the, what I had suggested is only until we can meet in person and do this as we traditionally have done it in a meeting at a live.
That's what I said.
But it's not a bad thing to keep have available in case some of us can't make it there to do
Well,
it.
if we have it set up, then we can do just that, Rick, I think. Anthony, why don't you, how long will it take to set it up?
I don't think it'll take long, but we would like to go ahead when the warrant is approved tonight and get the checks out to the vendors as quickly as possible tomorrow. And so maybe if you guys would authorize me just on this one-time basis, just to sign the warrant after you guys approve it, and then moving forward, we can use DocuSign for everything else.
Okay, I'll make a motion to that effect, that we give
I'll second.
Anthony, assuming we approve the warrant, we give Anthony authority to sign it this time only. And you
Okay.
seconded? Yeah, Ricky seconded. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor? Yes.
Aye. Yes.
4, 1 missing.
Mr. Chair, remember you, under these circumstances, we need to take a roll call vote.
You're absolutely right. I forgot. Okay. Ricky, how do you vote?
Yep, yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
And, Ernie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Yeah, I forgot. That's the law, actually, so. All right, so that takes care of that one. Item B,
Michael,
yes,
I had made a motion that we initiate a trial for the DocuSign. So we still had an open motion there.
all
Do we
right,
need to motion and make it part of the meeting?
might as well. All right, was there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Made and seconded. All right, the motion is that we initiate the trial on the what's it called?
DocuSign.
DocuSign. And then what would happen if we decide we like it? We're going to revote to do it on a permanent basis? Is that what you're thinking of, Melanie?
Yeah, why don't we, I'm assuming the DocuSign free trial is probably for 30 days. So why don't we initiate the free trial for 30 days and then revisit it at that point and decide if we continue it?
Made and seconded. Okay. Okay, vote. How do you vote, Rick?
Yes.
Yes for Rick. Melanie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. 4 in favor, 1 absent. Good. Now, item B, consideration of tax abatement and supplemental, both in the amount of $216.86. You should have the paperwork on this. I assume you do. You'll have the paperwork on this?
Mr. Chair, this is just a wash. There was a mistake made in when there was a transfer of ownership of this piece of property. So it's simply a matter of abating $216.86 for the Neemans, and then or Mr. Neiman, and then supplementing the tax of the Kings in the amount of $216.86.
Make that motion.
Made and seconded. Is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Melanie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes? Ernie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. 4 in favor, 1 absent. Good, this is easy. Now comes a harder one. Reevaluation of public health concern and town operations. Mr. Town Manager, you want to speak to this?
Certainly. Well, you guys know what we've been doing since March 16th. We've been closed to the public, and more recently, as of last Wednesday, we sent most of the staff home. I'm there all the time, and then occasionally another staff member will come in to take care of something very specific. But otherwise, we're simply answering the phones and trying to answer questions. And we've had a lot of questions about re-registration, so we're directing them online. You may know, I think I alerted you folks previously, but I spoke to Dr. Stephen Sears, who is a Belgrade resident. He's a physician and a former state epidemiologist who's been called out of retirement by the Maine CDC to help with this situation. And when we spoke, first of all, I asked him if there was anything more that we could or should be doing as an organization to help protect the health of the town. And he felt very comfortable with what we've done and could offer no other suggestions. So I was encouraged by that. But otherwise, I asked him about how, what the expectation is about how long this would last. I told him I'd heard, the conventional wisdom was that this would be at least a 2-month minimum. He thought that was a reasonable minimum, and that he said his expectation is that, this will be in place well into the month of June. And so for now, I think we're probably in a holding pattern. In fact, the governor today talked about moving the June 9th election to July 14th. And I think that gives you some indication of what the discussions are at the state level at this point. So, my recommendation is we just continue rocking right along as we have for the last couple of weeks. And, we'll do what we can to serve the public without letting them into the buildings and trying to answer their phone calls and help them via the internet. But otherwise, we have to wait to see what the public health situation is in the coming weeks and maybe months.
Any comments on Anthony's report? Anthony's suggestion? I think, okay. Well, just to make it official, I'll make a motion that we continue the precautions we've been following for the last few weeks. And we bring this up again at our next meeting.
I'll second that.
I'll sec-
We both did.
Okay, we got a second and third.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Okay, and Rick, how do you vote?
I'm
Yes.
okay with that.
I'm sorry, say again. Melody, say again.
Yes.
Yes. Rick, how did you vote? You there, Rick?
Yes.
Okay.
Can't hear me?
Ernie?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. All right, we'll continue for the next meeting. Next meeting is the 21st, I believe. Good. Are we ready for anything else? Warrant, I guess. Everybody had a chance to look at the warrant?
Yes. I have a few questions.
Want to move it first?
I'll make a motion. We accept. Well, somebody's gonna read it first.
Somebody's going to read the whole warrant?
Would you like me to do that, or Melanie? Are you?
Yes, you're now too.
I'm getting something awful. I can't understand. Is that you, Melanie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Her signal's weak, I think.
Is it me?
Okay.
Am I the weak?
Weak link.
Don't have great Wi-Fi, but yeah, Anthony, if you have, you could motion it.
Okay. So, and you'll have to forgive me, this warrant doesn't have a number on it. Our new, our interim treasurer did this and forgot to put a number on it, but the total amount is $592,167.36.
Kathy was here briefly. I don't know what she went to. Kathleen Wall. There you are,
Oh, there
Kathy.
she is.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
motion been made, seconded. Okay, any discussion on the warrant?
I got a couple. I'm
Yes.
trying to find them.
What do you have? Go ahead, Rick, go ahead.
Go ahead, Melanie. I'm looking for mine.
Okay. On page 1, we have $538.91 for fixing the plow frame. Does anybody know what happened to the plow frame?
Anthony?
I don't. Let me look at the invoice to see if it gives us any indication.
I had to guess it's probably the plow frame rope. They do on those.
That's not unusual for a plow frame to break, is it, Rick?
Nope.
Not when you hit No, no, when you hit a curb in or something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks like it was $350 for a Boss push frame. I guess that says assembly. And then another $142 for the labor. So does that sound about right, Rick? And I'm sorry, I don't know the circumstances of how it became injured.
I guess you're probably right.
Sounds about right.
Yes.
Big text trailer world. Has that got anything to do with you, Anthony?
If only.
All right, any other items? Anything else?
Anthony,
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Melanie.
I'm just thinking that if we have an expense like that and there's a, damage to town equipment that we have to have repaired, you should be notified of whatever happened.
Okay.
I don't know if there was a
Well-
miscommunication there, but you always be in
Well,
on it.
New facilities director, new town manager. So we'll clear those lines of communication.
You know we're gonna have
That way when
questions about it. Go ahead.
Ready for me?
Yes. Any more? Melanie, you have anything else?
No,
Okay, go ahead, Rick.
On page 1, under, it's down, third one up from the bottom, said general services,
Yes.
Yes.
and I don't know what that is, I guess.
So we contact our law firm on a fairly regular basis just to get some legal advice on different matters. So you see that the first 2 charges there are for very specific instances.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so the third one is just if I have a legal question about something, I will call the town attorney to seek his counsel.
Okay, that answers that one.
Anything else, Rick?
Yep, page 2, second one up from the bottom, it's electric bill, or third one up from the bottom. It's Lakes Fire Station, so much money compared to the rest of the buildings.
That's a good question. Let me look and see if this provides any.
I wonder if it's 2 months or,
It is out of line. About half of what the street lights were cost.
yeah, well, but I mean, I realize there's people there at the building, but I just wondered if there's a reason it's costing more. It may be too, because they have the rust truck plugged in outside.
Yeah. Well, it's almost as much as the Center for All Seasons.
Yeah. And that's got a lot more lights and stuff in it than the station does, I would think.
You find that?
Just a question.
Yeah, I'm looking at the bill right now.
Hey, Kathy.
I don't know if you need to give me an answer tonight.
Okay, I'll check on it, Rick.
Okay.
What else, Rick?
It looks,
On-
I will say this, Rick, it looks like according to the usage was pretty much the same in January, February, and March. So I don't know if that's just the cost of.
Oh, okay, just maybe do a little research on it.
I will.
Page number 3. It looks like on that bill for Morris Childs, it's got the grader on there twice. Just wondering if there was something wrong there.
Well, yeah, one's for $44 and one's, I'm reading it right, one's for almost $150.
Yeah,
Well, my understanding is that each time that he takes a grader or something out, that he charges just for that specific incident. So
that's what I'm wondering, if that's what happened.
yeah, so I think those are two separate incidents there.
Again, just check it out.
Okay.
What else?
Got on the next page, on page 4, I got the parts for the garage. Not sure why I marked that one.
Parts for the garage.
Yeah, it's down the bottom, under Hammond lumber bill. Hammond lumber check. Oh, I know why, because it says grader. I bet it was, my guess is those are probably for grade sticks for the cemetery,
That makes sense.
but it's got grader down there. That would be my guess.
I'll double check on that as well.
On page, I know I got a lot of them.
That's all right.
Page number.
We need to
6.
get Rick back to work.
Yeah, I know, I got too much time sitting around, that's for sure. On page number 6, down on the Treasury State of Maine, we got 2 water tests for the, I think it's the.
Yes, that's for the Center for All Seasons. They did actually do 2 tests for 2 different substances.
Okay, I'll take that for an answer. I think that's it.
Okay. Good.
I'll keep looking.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
I think that's it. I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. You have anything, Ernie?
No, I'm all good.
Kathy?
I already asked my question of Anthony. I thought that the price for the pump out at the North Belgrade on page 2 was a little bit high, but as it turns out, it wasn't just for pump out, it was also for repairs.
Okay. I appreciate you talked to Anthony about it, but let us know too, would you?
I just did.
I know you did, but not until I asked you about it.
I was going to say it, dear.
Well, thank you. Thank you, dear.
Yes.
And nothing, okay, if there's nothing else, we take a vote on the warrant. Okay. Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. 5 in favor. Thank you. Okay,
Okay,
we are.
can
ready for- Go ahead.
Just the calls to the attorney, if we can try Maine Municipal first, where, that's free for us and it's not to call the attorney.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I always call Maine Municipal first, and sometimes they refer us to the town attorney. So I try to be mindful of that.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question. Do we have any masks available for like folks at the transfer station that are still working?
Yes,
We do have some masks.
we do.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, now I'm done.
Okay. All right. I'm looking for Anthony's report. I don't know if I have it. Anyway, we're ready for the town manager report.
You need to take a vote on this, sir.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
Thought we did.
On the warrant?
We did.
All right,
We
all
just
right,
voted on the warrant.
all right. I thought I had you, but I didn't.
Somebody turn up his oxygen, will you?
I'll take another drink.
I
Give me one too, would you?
Yeah,
love it.
you wouldn't like this stuff. Water.
All right, town manager's report.
Okay, so we got items big and small here, but there are a number of them, but I'll try to breeze through them quickly. At the last meeting, you guys voted on the Spirit of America Award winners, and so I worked up some verbiage for some plaques for those folks to present at the town meeting. The cost is $165, and if it's all right with you guys, what I'd like to do is just pay for that out of the Select Board Special Projects account.
Any comments?
Have we done plaques before?
We have, not every year, but I think they had them last year or the year before.
I don't recall doing any. I remember them giving out the,
We've given out frame certificates too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I didn't think we gave out.
Well, the cost of getting something framed these days is not cheap either, so.
Yeah, because I think mine was, it's a framed copy of the town report front, but the town report was also big at the time. Now it's this big.
Yeah.
So that might be tricky. So maybe a plaque we might have to go to, since we can't do that.
Yeah.
It was just a I don't-
$165 doesn't seem like an inordinate amount of money.
Is that for all of them, Anthony, or just for one?
No, that's for all three.
Yeah,
For all
I mean,
three.
that's not that bad a deal.
No, that's fair.
I don't think it was the money that I was talking about. I think I just wanted to stay the same as what we've been doing, not give somebody something better than what we've given somebody else. That's not what this is all about.
Well, I got a paper certificate, but I have no problem with it.
Mine wasn't even framed.
Oh, well, you know.
So
Let's do it right.
Oh, dear. I just got a message. I don't know if it's appropriate to announce this, but I just got a message from Marshalline Baker that Rick has been re-incubated.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that.
sorry to hear that.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go into any further detail now. But
Mhm. Okay.
Thank you.
anyway, all right.
I
You
don't
need,
care. That-
do we need,
just-
do you want to vote on the plaque, or you're just going to let them go ahead and do it?
It's fine. I just was bringing it up that I don't want to.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think, Rick, that we can frame it anymore unless the frame is huge, because the town report that mine is from was when we did like a 6x9,
Yeah.
and now the town report is an 8.5 by 11.
it's fine. I don't have a problem with this. I guess what I was trying to make sure that we didn't do something more for somebody else that we didn't do for the other person. So we're going to hear about it down the road. That's all I'm looking.
I
Ernie,
want a plaque. Just
Hey, there we go.
do something to deserve it.
So do I, Melanie. Yes.
Didn't you get a plaque when you left the select board last time?
Me?
No,
I
Melanie.
did. That was
Uh, just scotch tape the other one for that. Anyway,
Got an airplane ticket when I left.
any other comments on the Spirit of America award? All right,
None.
All right.
moving on.
we need to
So-
make do we need to make a motion to take that money out of the select persons fund?
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Made
second it.
motion. Made and seconded. Any other discussion on the item? Okay, Ricky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Melanie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Okay, chair votes yes. 5 in favor. All right, what else you got there, town manager?
So one of the things I've been thinking a lot about, especially as the summer approaches, is parking in the village, because there's still some concern about people parking where they're not supposed to be. And knowing that Belgrade is not a community that embraces a lot of ordinances, and this is one that we would have trouble enforcing anyway, what I would propose is that instead of coming up with something extravagant, just putting up some signs that say parking in designated areas only. And I think if we do that, most people are probably going to adhere to the sign, at least believing that there's some sort of force of law behind it. And, so anyway, so that's what I would propose for maybe addressing some parking concerns down in the village.
It's a good first step.
What'd you say, Ernie?
A good first step, as a prelude to something further, if needed. We'll have to see how it goes.
Melanie?
How many streets are we talking about here?
Oh, I don't know. I would guess maybe, 2 on each side of the road through that little stretch. Does that seem about right?
Yeah.
So 4.
It's only 500 feet long, isn't it?
No, it's It's closer to a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, I was thinking it was about a quarter of a mile.
Yeah. And I think it's 3,000 or something like that.
Okay, all right.
I think what I would like to see too is some handicap signs right near where the pavement is marked, because number one, it's starting to wear off already, and two, in the wintertime, you can't see them.
Mm.
Go ahead. Anybody object to putting signs up?
No.
Or
We
anyone?
just need to see how, sorry.
That's all right.
I think we just need what the costs are so that we can can we wait and put it on like the warrant for the next meeting and just let us know what the cost will be?
Certainly. I mean, what I plan to do is just ask Morris. Of course, Morris has a budget for signs, just to see what
Right.
the expense would be and pay for it out of that budget.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds
Amen.
good.
I presume that's a dog barking, not one of the select board members. I don't know.
Oh,
Somebody
yes,
projected or
that's-
something.
I
Yeah.
have a question. I have this question, Anthony.
Yes, Kathy.
And that is that somewhere in my brain rattles around that there needs to be, in order for signage to be enforceable, that it needs to be every so many feet. You understand what I'm saying? That
I do.
there's somewhere in regulations of the world or whatever they are, maybe it's parking districts or whatever they are, but there are suggestions as to how many signs and how frequently they should be placed. And maybe that's something that we want to take a look at.
Yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll just contact our friends at DOT and see what their recommendations are as far as maybe the number of signs and the placement of the signs.
Okay.
All right, then come back to us at a later meeting. Okay.
Got a question.
Ricky, go ahead. What'd you say, Rick?
When Anthony checks with DOT, maybe can make sure we do have a right to do that. I'm not sure we do rights to put up signs on state property like that. So
Good point. Yes.
it might be a good question to ask him when you talk to him, Anthony.
Okay.
That's a suggestion.
Anything else, Anthony?
Yes. So while Rick has been busy poring over the warrant, I've been working on our employment guidelines. And so I've been going through all of our policies, and I've got all of our policies at least gathered in one place and updated. And you guys have done a good job, it looks like, over the last 2.5 years of updating policy. But one of the things that needs to be updated is the employment guidelines. They haven't been updated since 2017. And the most substantive change is that the wage scale, of course, has changed because, for one thing, the minimum wage has gone up twice since it was last approved. So this week, I plan on sending you a red line version of that. Most of the changes are just grammatical in nature, and some of them simply reflect how we're currently doing business. And as I mentioned, the most substantive changes to the wage scale. So, and how I came about with the wage scale is I did a search on the MMA website of the salary surveys, and I set the parameters of at towns of population of 1,000 at one end and 5,000 at the other end. And so anyway, so I just want you guys just to take a look at that and reflect on it, and at some future point, I'll ask you guys to consider amending and updating those employment guidelines. This is the next to the last thing I want to talk about, but that is simply.
Hold on a minute, Anthony.
Oh.
Melanie, did you have a question? You have a comment?
Oh, Melanie, you're muted. Hold on.
Because if anybody could read lips,
Sorry.
Here we go.
tell us what she's saying.
Where will we find the copy that you've marked up so that we can review it?
So what I've done is I've redlined it so that you guys can see what the changes are that I'm proposing.
You gonna mail it to us?
Email it.
Email, okay.
That's what I was checking.
Is that okay, Melanie?
That's
Okay.
what I was hoping. I hadn't seen it, so I was just wondering.
None of
And
us
then,
are seeing it.
Yeah, and so as I mentioned, the next to last thing I want to talk about, but this is a big one, and really and truly, I just want to put this on your radar screens because one of the ways in which we're going to be most impacted by the quarantine and the stay in place orders is our revenue. As you can imagine, we're not seeing all that much excise tax right now. A few re-registrations being done online. Our recreation revenue, we were planning on budgeting $95,000 this year. And of course, we're not collecting any after school money right now. And the state of our summer camps is still very much up in the air. And I frankly suspect that once we commit taxes, we may see a higher level of delinquent taxes this year than what we've seen in the past with people being laid off and such. And so I've been thinking about how we might be able to adjust for that in some form or fashion. And the governor's emergency order does allow us to commit taxes at the same level as last year. And that actually serves the town pretty well because, of course, as you know, we lowered the budget pretty significantly. But again, and my peers throughout the state, we've been talking about this on the listservs, and no one has any clarity whatsoever on what this is going to mean financially as far as revenues go for any town. Another factor that comes into play is we will not see the same level of state revenue sharing as we had anticipated getting and what the state had forecasted that we would be getting this year, just as a result of so many businesses being shut down. So we may want to look at, start thinking about how we are going to tackle that. And the first idea that came to mind for me was simply committing taxes at the same level as we did last year. That'll give us a little bit of a cushion. And beyond that, of course, we do have a very healthy undesignated fund that if we needed to ask the voters to tap into, that we could. I talked with our assessor on Monday about when is the earliest that we might be able to commit taxes. He suggested either late June or near the 1st of July. Of course, that is kind of dependent on what happens with the school district budget. And so I called the superintendent and talked with him, and he's anticipating a 3.2% increase in how much Belgrade will be contributing to the school budget this year. And that amounts to about $200,000 total. And so he thinks that's a pretty good number, but again, he's kind of up in the air with his budget right now. And the time frame for approving that budget is unknown as well, because typically that public vote happens in mid-June, and who knows if what's going to happen with that election. So a lot of things just up in the air, but I really want to just put that on your radar screens to begin thinking about. One other sort of tax matter that a citizen raised with me today is the possibility of the board approving poverty abatements for people who might have lost their employment during this. And some of you who have been around a while, I'm just curious if y'all have ever considered poverty abatements for taxes in the past.
Not in my time.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Not in my time. I mean, we've had some approaches for various reasons, but it's a case by case basis.
Yeah, we haven't had that many, if we've had any. Ricky, do you?
I believe we have, but you do need to do a lot of research on that before you okay that.
What?
You look up.
Well, I mean, from my understanding is that the board decides those on a case-by-case basis.
Because they've been refused by you first for help, I believe.
You're thinking of GA. You thinking of general assistance?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Well, it kind of is, because that's what they start at. They start there. They can't just come in for poverty. I mean, you got to go through the chain, is what I'm trying to say.
so Rick, what you're saying is it's not just a matter of someone having some sort of temporary loss of income. It's someone who is poor by federal government standards. Dan Newman is shaking his head yes.
Yeah,
Dan, you want?
it basically is. That's the way we don't get into it too much because it's usually in confidential when we do it. And yes,
Dan, do you want to say anything? Dan, you have anything you want to say? Want to add?
No, I mean, back when I was on the board, we looked at some, but you basically got to be in poverty level, you know, temporary layoffs and stuff really have nothing to do with poverty abatements.
I think what we need to do is look at what the legislation and the governor has put forth. And that's probably what we're going to have to go with. They've set up some programs to take care of some of these situations anyway.
Yeah, the MMA has done a really good job of keeping us abreast of what's going on those fronts, and
Yeah.
to date, I haven't heard anything about tax relief, property tax relief for people as a result of this.
The only thing that I have heard about any of that stuff is related to the COVID is the business about being laid off and getting unemployment with an extra $600 in the unemployment, and really nothing about, haven't really said anything about taxes at this stage of the game. It's just
The only thing I've heard is about income.
income stuff.
Yeah, which, anyway, I don't know about taxes. Taxes, we may just have to figure out a way to defer things if it comes up.
Well,
Go ahead.
so property abatements normally too come up when someone is delinquent on their taxes for more than 1 year. And I feel like, you know, maybe what we have to do is consider doing tax payment plans for folks who may have come upon the situation and not have any sort of a buffer. So, but the town historically isn't going to foreclose on your property until you've been delinquent in your taxes going into a third year. So I think 30 days into this or 45, you know, wherever we at, I think that it would be, if folks thought that we were going to abate their property taxes because they lost their job temporarily, I think we would find ourselves in a situation where we were not able to collect enough taxes to run the town. So we've got to have protocols in place. And I think until we get into this and until folks were in a crisis situation or approaching crisis because they've not paid them more than once. You know, so it may hit us a couple of years down the road where we have to consider it if somebody, you know, if they're laid off now and they stay laid off. But at this point, it's just not something that we can consider, considering the short time frame that this has been affecting folks.
Yeah, hopefully things will be opening up in a few months, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, and Melanie, trust me, and you know, obviously, I'm very empathetic to anyone who's lost their job as a result of this. You know, some of our neighbors are in that situation right now, and but I also have the concern that you raised about would we have the resources in order to offer the level of services if we started abating a whole lot of taxes.
Now, one thing I wonder if we should consider is past we have given like $100 cards to Hannaford on like an emergency food basis. And we have a healthy fund set up there for helping folks out. And I wonder if that's something that we should consider because there are folks in town who lost their jobs. And maybe be a way for folks not to have to apply for general assistance, but if they ask for help, we could have something to give them.
Yeah, so of course, under the GA guidelines, you know, I mean, there are very strict guidelines about who qualifies for that. If we wanted to, you know, use some of the money from the emergency fuel fund that we set up to do something like that, you know, we could definitely do that for sure.
That's what I was thinking is, you know, if we're not using that fund for emergency fuel and we do have a healthy amount in there that that if we could, maybe we should consider doing something like that. And if we did $50 or $100 increments, it would take us fairly far.
Well,
If I may,
yes,
I think that's a fine idea. I just, and time will tell how what the impact will be of this whole thing. Hopefully it ends sooner rather than later. I'm in favor of that. I just, I wouldn't want to, go out and buy a drawer full of them and hand them out like cookies. I think they should be handed out like manhole covers. So just, when needed, if you know what I'm saying. So.
well, why don't we wait a little bit and see what happens?
Yeah.
We may get, go ahead.
One thing that I think does help address a situation like that, Melanie, is the fact that our food pantry continues to operate, thanks to a lot of good people stepping up and volunteering for folks who are at high risk for being out there right now. In fact, I delivered some food there today, and next week, Chris Dutil and I are going to go and pick up some food shipments in Augusta and deliver them to the food pantry. So, you've seen on our Facebook page, we're trying to promote that and letting people know that that's available, and also the free school lunches for kids every weekday. So we're those are two good resources we can help funnel people toward as well.
Good.
There's another resource too that's not in Belgrade, but for everyone in the surrounding communities. And there's an emergency pet pantry at the same place in Augusta that it's not called Addie's Attic anymore. I forget the name of it, but they also have emergency pet supplies for folks.
Good to know.
Good. All right. Anything else? Who's?
Yeah. One more thing I forgot is the DOT did call me today, and they say that they are planning on moving forward with the purchase of the Burgess property on the Oakland Road. They say they plan on buying it and holding on to it for the time being. Now, you will recall that the last time that we talked, the plan was to, get together with the neighbors once some of them had returned from for the season. And unfortunately, what's going on right now sort of prevents us having those face-to-face discussions that we wanted to have with them. But they wanted to call and just, let us know that they are planning on moving forward with that. And so I just want you guys to be aware of that as well.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we're not a part of that purchase as a town.
Correct.
Okay, good. I don't want to, my feeling.
But of course,
Go ahead.
One at a time. Who finish your thought, Ernie, and then was that Melanie?
Well, I think our initial conversation about that was that we didn't want to, start the ball rolling towards a precedent of, everybody in that neighborhood thinking that, their property's, going to be sold, to us or to the state or to a conjunction between us and the state. Because we haven't really made a decision with the state on, the best course of action there. I think, doing rolling real estate purchases around that neighborhood isn't, really what that, could wind up being quite costly if everybody thinks their property is worth much more than it actually is. So, so if the state wants to go ahead and do that on their own, that's up to them. I don't want to be held liable for anything in conjunction with it, or I don't think the town should be at this stage. So that's just my point.
Well, there have been no commitments on our part to
Good.
date. Is that correct, Anthony?
Correct.
Yeah. Melanie, were you going to say something? Go ahead, Mel.
so there's been no commitment on our part. We were very clear in the last meeting that we were not going to start purchasing properties without an agreement with the entire select board. However, DOT has essentially been saying is that they're holding us to this 2011 agreement initially with the initial saltwater well contamination. So somehow they're going to force us into footing half a bill for this. And it seems like they're going to tell us how we're going to do it, and then we're just going to foot the bill for half. And when we met with them, we were very clear that that was not the path that we were intended to take. So I'm a little bit perplexed. I mean, I feel like, you know, we could have a meeting like this with the neighbors. But we are, one way or the other, they're going to make sure that we pay 50%.
You have any sense that that's so, Anthony?
Yeah, I think Melanie raises a good point that, you know, their intention is that whatever the total cost of the total solution is, that we'll fit 50% of that bill.
Well, right now, especially, we're not in a position to do that since we don't know we'll have the money for the light bill next week. I guess what we can do is wait. We can't tell them what they can and can't do anyway. I guess what we have to do is wait and see.
Mhm.
Anybody disagree with that?
No, it's true.
Don't we have
Sure.
any decision-making power here as to whether or not we're going to participate in that with them, or that we have other choices?
Well, as I understand it, what they're holding to is that letter that we signed, or was signed by the select board back in, was it 2011?
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and the only thing I can say is that we can talk with, get a legal decision as to whether we can fight that, if we want to fight that. Or what does that bind us to? Does that bind us to anything they come up with, or just what was intended in the original letter?
I
So-
think we can purchase anything anyways without the body of the town telling us, yes, we can do it.
Right.
No. So we can't spend money we don't have.
That's right. Melanie?
But irregardless, when they were there at the last meeting, what she was essentially, we were either going to agree or it was going to get to legal. Us to be remedied, but I feel like we do, maybe we do need to get our own legal opinion that says this is the parameters that we set in place, that we were going to decide this together. We've not yet ironed out if we purchase property together, which ones are 49%, which ones we own 51%, how there's no plan. And we were very clear that we couldn't start something without us being in agreement. So maybe we do need a legal opinion that says what does the town have for right?
Ernie?
Oh, no, that was kind of my point, was earlier, just that, you know, we're not, the state's going to do what the state wants to do in regards to buying certain particular properties. And I just wanted to make it clear that, you know, we're not part of that. And this isn't, you know, going to be the final solution that, you know, they just go one by one and buy these properties. If they want to do it on their own, that's fine. That's entirely up to them. But, you know, I haven't signed anything. I haven't agreed to anything as a member of this board to, you know, put us, you know, as partners with them on those land purchases or those real estate purchases. So, I mean, the saga continues, obviously. But
I don't think Anthony's purpose in bringing this up was to try to convince us we made such a decision, but I think he's just reporting on his phone conversation today.
I agree. I don't want to see the state, you know how the state can be sometimes, you know, they can, you know, kind of head in this direction and like that's the way they want it to go, and we're, you know, forced to tag along, and you know, it remains to be seen how this is going to be ultimately solved. That's a much larger topic for a much longer time, and we'll get to that someday. But I'm not sure, exactly why this particular property needs to be purchased at this time by the state, but that's, I'm sure that's between the state and the Burgesses, but, I don't want the Burgesses' neighbors to all of a sudden say, oh, the Burgesses sold to the state, so that must mean the state's buying my property too. And then all of a sudden, the state's on the hook for buying all these different properties, and then they come knocking at our door, thinking we're going to open our checkbook up and join them in this process. And that's not how decisions are to be made on this whole issue. But I think that's, we're not going to be able to tell the state how to do their stuff. So just let them do it and see what happens. But that's my point.
Okay, Melanie, do you have something?
I do.
Melanie?
Can I make a motion that any contacts, I don't assume we need to go right to the town attorney, but whether or not we can actually put a halt in place on the state purchasing this piece of property when we were very clear with what we were putting in for parameters at the last meeting that we had with them. So can we legally prevent them from purchasing this property when their plan is that the end result is we have to pay 50% of whatever they come up for a solution? But we've not come up with a solution together. We've not come up with we need the whole plan. What's the 5-year plan and the 10-year plan? And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but I think we need to be able to say to the state, no, you're actually not purchasing the Burgess property. And then we're going to be responsible for 50%. I think we need an attorney to look at the 2011 agreement and see whether or not that is binding in 2020, or if we need a new agreement for 2020 forward with DOT, where we agree with how we're going to do this moving forward. If they can hold 2011 over us for the 50%, or if we need to have a separate agreement and actually follow through with the plan that we tried to initiate.
The motion, I
Mr. Chair.
think, is, hang on just a minute. Your motion basically is to consult the attorney about this whole situation, whether the 2011 agreement is binding today. Is that basic? I'm trying to simplify the motion so people understand.
Yes.
I'm not even sure.
And-
I think we just need to have Anthony check it, see if it is legal.
Mel, you finish your thought?
Well, because I think we need something from the attorney saying whether or not we can put a stop order on DOT. That they're not going to tell us what they're going to do, that this is a partnership. So can we prevent them from purchasing that property?
Do we care if they purchase it? What we want to prevent them is forcing us into going halves with them. That's really.
If I may,
What-
that was kind of my point was, they can go ahead and purchase this property. I just, at some point, whether it's, a legal opinion or just a conversation with Anthony that, we're not part of that. And it's not that, I don't know. We're not going to be able to stop them. I think they can purchase whatever they want to purchase, I guess, if they're in agreement to purchase it. But
They
but
want to purchase, but they're attempting to hold us to a 2011 agreement. And if they're bound by the 2011 agreement, whatever they decide to purchase, we will have to pay 50% of. And I'm not saying that I'm loath to that if that ends up being the best solution. But I don't.
yeah, it's just a slippery slope. I get it. We don't want to. I don't know how we can.
All right, is there a second to Melanie's motion?
I'd like to discuss it a little more.
Well, if you second it, we'll put it back on the floor and you can discuss it.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded. All right, discussion, Kathy.
I think that, let me see. We do need a legal opinion. That's number one. number two, what that legal opinion is should guide us in terms of what kind of decisions that we make. I don't care if they buy the property, but as you say, I am a bit opposed to being forced into paying for half of what they decide to do without any consulting with us.
All right. Ready to vote? Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't get the little hand thing wave for Anthony to show up. So
That's all right.
Anthony and I sat down back after that last meeting. I came in basically as a member of the budget committee, and I think the town has a lot more comprehensive agreement on spelling out what the town is and isn't entitled to, because right now the town is required to pay for half that property. Say it's $100,000. The town pays $50,000. Who owns the property when it's done? And if you pay back the state $50,000, it's actually costing the town more than that, because you're taking that property off tax rolls.
Yeah.
So technically, you're losing all the tax from it too. So technically, the state should have to cover half of the taxes that are lost. So basically, if the town pays for half of it, they should, at that point, own it.
I think you're absolutely right. I think what we need is first some sort of advice on the 2011 agreement. Is that
Right.
still apply? And also, if we're going to do anything about this problem, what is that going to be? We should have some sort of a agreement, as Dan suggested, as to what it is that we're going to do and what are the limits. That makes sense to you, Anthony?
Yes, sir. I'm happy to contact Mr. Saucier about it.
Okay.
Is that agreeable to everybody? You want to vote on it? There is a motion on the floor. Any other discussion on the motion? Kathleen?
No, sir.
Okay. All right.
I think that's basically what Melanie just said. I mean, in a mouthful, that's what we want Anthony to do, is
Yes.
check with the attorneys and see what we're legal.
But we do have a motion on the floor. We should vote on it or take a brief. Okay. Okay. The motion, call for the vote. Rick, how do you vote?
Can you restate the motion?
Yeah, would you?
Can you restate it, Melanie? You want me to try?
Yeah, so the motion is for Anthony to contact the town attorney for an opinion on reading the 2011 agreement between the town of Belgrade and DOT to see if the 2011 agreement that we would pay 50% is binding in 2020, or if we can initiate a new agreement for 2020 forward. And if we have legal authority to prevent them from purchasing property that we will be 50% responsible for paying for.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got it, Ernie?
Yeah.
Okay. We ready to vote? Okay, Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes for Rick. Melanie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nope. You've been supplanted by, you and Jay switched places. Okay, and the chair votes yes also, so 5 in favor. You know what you're charged to do here, Anthony, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anything
And
else?
one last thing is Mr. Chair, you wanted to talk about donating some iPads.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I heard on the news that one of the counties, I believe it's Piscataquis County, is of all the counties, all 16 counties, it's the one that has the fewest resources for teaching the kids in school, online in school. And a thought occurred to me, I don't know how you feel about this, but we have some electronic devices. We were given a bunch of tablets from the school district. I don't know how many we have left. It may not be many, but my thought is, will the select board be willing to give those to Piscataquis County?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, just as a gesture, because it's not going to solve their problem, but I'm hoping it'll help.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, you want to make, Ricky, what are you're kind of looking pensive there.
Oh, no, of course I do, because I look out for the town of Belgrade. I am in favor of this if we don't need them for the town of Belgrade's people. If people, the kids in this town have got what they need, I'm fine with it. Then we need to keep them here and give them out to the people in Belgrade.
What do you think, Anthony, of getting a request for them?
Occasionally. And so, I mean, what I would say is I think we would want to keep some of those here in town for, people to check out of the library, and keep a couple at the town office. But we probably have more than what we really need. We got a generous number of those apparently from the school district.
How many do we have available?
Oh, I don't know the exact number, Rick. I just know that there's been a big stack of them sitting in the town office since I arrived.
Why don't we look into it and see how many we have and what we can spare if
Okay, I'll find out what the inventory is, and then I'll make a recommendation to you guys about how many we
Bring it up, we'll put it on the agenda next meeting. And at the same time, we could probably check on which county it is that has number one, they may not even want them.
Yeah.
Maybe we can find out if the gesture is going to be wasted anyway. It's just that.
That was a good gesture. I think that's a good gesture. I just need to make sure people in Belgrade's got what they need before we donate.
I concur.
Thank you.
That's agreeable. Ernie?
I'm all set. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
You lit up, so I didn't know if it was.
Oh.
All right. Is there anything else, Anthony?
No, sir.
Anything?
Sorry.
Yes, you have your hand up. Boy, you disappeared in the dark. I kind of see you moving around.
Sorry, I'm going to put the overhead light.
Turn your flashlight on.
Oh,
Go ahead, Melanie.
true that. Good. Hang on. All right, no, I don't know if that's better, but
Oh, we can see. Just come look. There you go. Oh, there you are.
can we put something maybe on our Facebook page if we do have this glut of iPads? And my thought is that we have a lot of older folks that are quarantined because they're a vulnerable population. And if they possibly have internet, but maybe not an iPad, they could use this to still connect with their family.
Sure.
So
Good idea.
maybe consider loaning the townspeople and showing them how to do a Zoom thing or a Facebook thing, so that maybe we could help them too.
Sure.
Put them out on loan.
Good
Kind
plan.
of like we're doing at the library.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good thought. And I hadn't considered that, but at least they're being used. I'd see use if somebody gets some benefit out of them.
Yeah, like me on this one tonight. I would have been doing this on my phone, except I have the town's iPad.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
And Mike, I got one more question for you, if I could.
Who's that? Dan, yeah, go ahead.
Back when I was on the board, Dennis had set up something. You guys were talking about taxes and abatements. Dennis originally had set up something for the elderly folks in town to be able to work and donate some time to abate some of their taxes.
Yeah, that was actually set up when Gil was here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
well, I remember it being set up. Is that still in effect? Because that might be something you guys want to advertise for some of these people if they're getting to the point they were elderly, they're working part-time somewhere and aren't working there. That's something else you might want to advertise too, that they could donate some time, even if it's just cleaning up some of the trash on the sides of the road. They're out walking,
Yeah,
If I can cut in for a minute.
go ahead.
It worked well for a while, but they came into a problem with being covered by the town's insurance, and they had to stop it.
I thought it was volunteer, Rick. I thought it was volunteer.
They still had to be covered by the town if they're doing any type of work.
Right.
It was kind of a gray area, and we decided, let's not do it. I remember right. Dennis might
Hey,
ask on that.
yeah, from what I remember of that, the they're volunteering, but technically they're volunteering through this program to receive some sort of abatement on their taxes. So in effect, the town was paying them, in a roundabout sort of way. And so, yeah, they had to be covered by the town's insurance. And that was that's the gray area that Rick was talking about.
I think we're talking about two different programs, actually. Dennis had set up I don't remember what he called it, but a clean up the road program, adopt a road or something like that. And then, but what Dan is talking about is a law that was passed that gave the town the right to allow seniors, I believe it is, to go and work off up to $750 of their taxes by
That's
doing
right.
jobs for the town. The problem is to find jobs that they can do without endangering themselves or opening a town of liability. We had a problem.
That's right. Yeah. So it was a gray area that, got, I don't know I don't even know if the program still is on the books or
Yeah,
not.
it's still a state law as far as I know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a possibility if we run into there again. I think that's sort of a case by case basis. If we had, an elderly person that, fell onto hard times because of this COVID-19 issue, and they needed an opportunity to work off part of their taxes or something, I guess we could revisit that in terms of what its liability is to the town. But that's certainly a possibility, I guess, if it still exists. That is separate from the road cleanup program, which
Yeah, it was a separate program.
something
Anthony,
different.
why don't you make yourself familiar with that what we're talking about, the law that allows people to work off part of their taxes, so that we can know what you're talking about. So know when you're familiar with it, then we can discuss it again at a future meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And Dan will bring it up again. Thank you for bringing it up, though.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were talking about abating taxes and everything else, and I know there's some programs out there.
Yeah.
And the other thing you guys can consider, if it gets to the point, rather than abating people's taxes, I know you can abate the interest charges. You'd be better off pay over a period of time and just abating the interest charges.
Right.
Yeah.
So Dan, would that be for delinquent taxes, the interest on delinquent taxes?
Yeah, you guys were talking about the fact that, people may be out of work and not be able to pay this year or something. You could set up a payment plan, so they make a couple payments over next year, but you can abate the interest charges so that the town doesn't have to charge the interest on it.
The chair will be away for a couple of minutes. Ernie, if you'd take over.
Okay. I don't know where we stand here. I think
We're close to the end.
Anthony, do you have anything else or?
No, sir, I'm done.
We adjourn then.
We're on the brink of adjournment.
Yep.
Okay. I'll enter a motion.
Was fabulous.
If we're about to adjourn, I'll wait.
Okay, I think we're about to adjourn.
Adjourn quickly, though.
I'll make
There
that
are
motion.
to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
I
Pleasure meeting you all.
Yes.
You all.
Yeah.
Hope you're all doing well.
You
Thank
guys,
you, everybody, for coming. Dan and Jay and Travis was here.